You arrive at the village square just after dawn, expecting the simple rhythm of a medieval market day. But something feels off. The air is thick with smoke and damp straw, and the ground beneath your boots shifts like it's alive. A woman clutches a loaf of bread as if it's gold, while a man argues over the weight of onions with quiet desperation. Then you notice it. The scales are being watched carefully, not by buyers, but by men who decide who eats and who doesn't. You step deeper into the market, convincing yourself this is manageable. The layout is simple enough. Wooden stalls under sagging cloth, merchants shouting prices over the low hum of livestock, and carts creaking under sacks of barley and turnips. You tell yourself, if you can find food, trade fairly, and avoid trouble, you'll make it through the day. It feels like a system you can learn. The smells hit next. Wet hay, animal dung, stale beer, and wood smoke mix into something heavy enough to taste. Historical records from 15th century English markets suggest that over 70% of trade goods were perishable, meaning rot and contamination were constant threats. You realize quickly, fresh food isn't just valuable, it's survival. You approach a stall selling bread, its dark crust cracked and uneven. Barley bread, not wheat. Cheaper, denser, and often stretched with whatever fillers the baker could get away with. In famine years like the early 1400s, bread could contain up to 20% impurities, including husks or even spoiled grain. You hesitate, but hunger doesn't. A man beside you trades eggs for a strip of cured meat. No coins exchanged. Barter still dominates here, especially among peasants who rarely handle silver. You notice the pattern. Those with coins move faster, eat better, and speak louder. Those without, wait. Then you see it. A merchant's scale tipped ever so slightly, barely noticeable. A woman protests, but her voice fades as a nearby official steps closer. This isn't just trade, it's control. And suddenly, your confidence feels misplaced, because the rules here are not written for you. You begin to understand that survival here depends less on what you have, and more on what you know. The market is not chaos. It is tightly controlled, just not in ways you expected. Every stall, every measure, every transaction exists under the watch of authority, whether visible or not. Near the center, you spot them clearly now. The Reeves men. They don't shout or interfere openly, but their presence changes everything. In medieval England, officials like the Reeve were responsible for enforcing market laws, including weights, prices, and taxes. Violations could result in fines, confiscation, or worse, public punishment. You watch as a merchant subtly adjusts his scale before a sale, only to freeze when one of the Reeves men glances his way. The correction is instant. This is not fairness, it's selective enforcement. Power here is not about rules. It's about who gets noticed. A farmer beside you whispers that some traders pay to avoid inspections. It's unofficial, of course, but widely understood. Corruption isn't hidden. It's woven into survival. Those who play along eat. Those who don't disappear from the market quietly. Then there are the unspoken rules. Don't question a price too loudly. Don't block a stall. Don't draw attention if you're weak. In crowded markets, theft was common. Historical accounts suggest up to 1 in 10 market-goers experienced some form of petty theft. You instinctively check your belongings. And then, something shifts. A commotion at the edge of the square. Voices rise, not in trade, but in accusation. You turn, heart tightening, because whatever is happening, it's about to show you exactly how fragile your place here really is. You push closer to the commotion, drawn by instinct before caution can stop you. A circle has formed, tight, tense, so intense and silent in a way that feels far more dangerous than noise. At its center, a young boy stands trembling, a small sack clutched in his hands. Grain. Not much. Perhaps enough for a single family's meal. But here, that is everything. A man steps forward, accusing him loudly. Theft. The word cuts through the air like a blade. In medieval markets, theft was not just a crime. It was a threat to fragile order. Records from 14th to 15th century England show that public punishment for petty theft could include whipping, branding, or time in the stocks. Justice was swift, visible, and meant to terrify. You notice something unsettling. No one asks questions. No one defends him. The crowd doesn't care if he is guilty. They care that someone must be. In a place where scarcity defines survival, blame becomes a form of control. The boy tries to speak, but his voice collapses under the weight of eyes watching him. You feel it too. That pressure to stay silent, to not stand out. Because here, attention is danger. The Reeves men arrive, their pace calm, deliberate. They don't rush. They don't need to. Then you see the sack more clearly. It's torn. Grain spills slowly onto the mud below, mixing instantly with dirt and waste. Even if he is innocent, it doesn't matter anymore. The evidence is already ruined. A hand grabs the boy's shoulder. The crowd shifts, not away, but closer, watching, learning. And in that moment, you realize something far worse than hunger or theft. This system doesn't protect the weak. It feeds on them. You step back, your heartbeat uneven, trying to create distance between yourself and what you've just witnessed. But the market doesn't pause. It absorbs the moment and moves forward as if nothing has happened. Trade resumes. Voices rise again. Life continues. But something fundamental has changed inside you. You begin to see patterns where before there was only noise. The best goods, fresh vegetables, clean cloth, solid tools, are clustered closer to the center, near authority. The further out you move, the worse things become. Rotten produce, cracked pottery, meat that smells just slightly wrong. Survival here isn't just about getting food. It's about knowing where to stand. In medieval England, urban populations relied heavily on weekly markets, with some towns seeing over 500 to 1,000 people gathering in a single day. Supply was unpredictable, especially after poor harvests. A single bad season could reduce available grain by 30 to 50%, sending prices beyond what most could afford. You feel that pressure now, subtle but constant. A merchant offers you a deal. Cheap bread, too cheap. You hesitate, remembering stories of contaminated grain, ergot, mold, or worse. Consuming it could lead to sickness, hallucinations, even death. But hunger doesn't wait for certainty. Nearby, a woman argues over the price of onions. Her voice cracks, not from anger, but fear. She knows what comes next if she fails. You see it in her hands, thin, shaking. This isn't negotiation, it's desperation. Then you notice something else. People are watching each other, closely. Not with curiosity, but calculation. Who is weak? Who is distracted? Who can be taken advantage of without consequence? You check your belongings again? Still there, for now. Because here, survival is no longer about strength or luck. It's about decisions, and one mistake is enough. You think you understand the rules now. Stay quiet, move carefully, trust no one. But the longer you remain, the more you realize. The system isn't just harsh. It's designed to break you slowly. You finally step forward to trade. A small bundle, what little you've managed to secure. The merchant eyes it, weighs it, then shrugs, not enough. You argue calmly at first, pointing to the measure. It's fair. You know it is. But the moment your voice rises, everything shifts. A Reeves man turns toward you. Silence spreads faster than fear. Conversations nearby stop, just slightly. Not obvious, but enough. You feel it immediately. Attention. The one thing you were trying to avoid. He approaches, not aggressively, but with authority that doesn't need force. He asks a simple question. Are you disputing the measure? It sounds harmless, but you've already seen what happens to those who stand out. In medieval England, challenging market authority could be interpreted as disorderly conduct. Fines were common. But if unpaid, punishment escalated quickly. Stocks, public humiliation, even imprisonment. And fines were not small. A single penalty could equal several days' worth of food. You try to explain, carefully. But your words don't matter as much as your position. You are not known here. You have no allies. No one steps forward. The merchant remains silent. Of course he does. The Reeves man inspects the scale, not to prove fairness, but to assert control. After a moment, he nods. The merchant is correct. The decision is final before it even begins. Then comes the cost. A fine, small enough to seem reasonable, large enough to hurt. You hesitate. And in that pause, the system tightens. Because refusing isn't an option, and paying means losing what little you had left. You reach into your pouch slowly, feeling the weight disappear from your hand. Around you, the market continues as always. No one reacts. No one cares. And that's when it becomes clear. The law here doesn't protect you. It protects itself. By late afternoon, the market begins to dissolve. Not suddenly, but in fragments. Stalls empty. Voices fade. The mud thickens underfoot, churned by hundreds of footsteps into something deeper, heavier. Like the day itself has sunk into the ground. You watch as traders pack what remains. Unsold goods are bundled quickly, sometimes carelessly. What cannot be sold today may not survive until tomorrow. In some records, up to 15 to 20% of perishable goods were lost by the end of a single market day. Waste is constant. Hunger is inevitable. A cartwheel drags through the mud, leaving a deep groove behind it. A child slips, hands sinking into filth. No one stops. Not out of cruelty, but because stopping has a cost. Time, energy, attention. All of it dangerous. You move toward the edge of the square, your steps slower now, heavier. You've learned something here, but not in the way you expected. Survival isn't about strength. It isn't about fairness. It's about minimizing risk in a system that was never built for you. The boy from earlier is gone. No trace, no memory left in the crowd. And that's the final truth. In medieval life, especially in places like England in the early 1400s, survival favored those who made the fewest mistakes. Not the strongest, not the smartest. Just the most careful. You take one last look at the square before turning away. Now, I want to ask you, if you were here, would you have survived this day? Or would one small decision have changed everything? If this story made you think differently about medieval life, take a moment to comment your thoughts below. Like the video if you want more immersive journeys like this, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Share this with someone who thinks history was simple. Thank you for being here, and for surviving this far. Because next time, the rules might be even harsher.